So it's been 1 week now since I first got my hands on the Galaxy Z Fold 7 and the Galaxy Z Flip 7. And in this video, I just want to share all of my thoughts that I can in one video here on both of these devices because I'm in honestly a bit of a conflict myself. We have two very nice devices here. So starting with price, the Flip 7 coming in at a retail price of $1,100 has some decent trade-in values on it. You can get it for about $500 to $600 depending on what you trade in. And on the Fold 7, a $2,000 retail price, which to be completely honest, this is a bit of an inflated price because if you don't select a trade-in here at pre-order, Samsung's just giving you a $300 credit. So to me, it still feels close to its original $1,800 price from some of the previous Folds. Regardless, I'll have links in the description for whenever you're watching this video on Samsung's latest deals. But now let's start with the displays because I think that's really the main difference with these two foldables as you're getting the conventional flip phone that maybe this doesn't make sense to every target audience, but it's a device that I really like and form factor that I love. And then on the Fold side of things, this has been always a 2-in-1 device for me personally, sometimes a 3-in-1 device if I can get away using this as my computer. But this Fold 7 is a huge step forward for the Fold line. This has been so much thinner, so much enjoyable to use in my first week with how much lighter weight it is. And that is why in some past years, I was actually using the Flip more than the Fold because the Folds were historically so bulky and chunky. I did not want to carry a brick around with me all the time, whereas this is way more compact and pocketable. You can take it everywhere with you. I usually always have this in the palm of my hand just because it's easy to carry it around. It is not getting the same insane amount of physical refinement. It is slightly thinner than last year's Flip 6 while also getting a larger battery and maintaining the same weight and getting larger displays. So it's been a very nice physical facelift, I would describe, on the Flip. And then this Fold 7 more so got really a physical transformation. It's a completely different Fold experience, even though the software side of it is still exactly the same as past Folds. It just feels so different to be using this device. It is so lightweight. Something I noticed with this Fold 7 as far as just how much lighter it is, I use an iPhone 15 Pro Max for some things around here in the office, and just again, a conventional smartphone. Drop this on the scale, 221 grams. Now, if I take, again, the Fold 7 with an 8-inch inner display and a 6.5-inch outer display, put this on the scale, 218 grams. It's lighter weight than my conventional smartphone, which when this phone came out, it was drastically lighter than the previous iPhones before it. So I thought this was a super lightweight phone at the time that I got it. But now just a year and change later, we have a lighter device that still has an insanely premium feel and massive displays, so much more use case and functionality, in my opinion, over just having a conventional smartphone. Because lots of times when I'm just on my regular smartphone, I sometimes wish I had more screen real estate to do some more actual work tasks. But then it also is pretty compact when it is folded up and taken with you. So here is a good look at the side-by-side of the outer displays. We have the 6.9-inch display now on the Flip 7 and the 6.5 on the Fold 7 on the right. You can see the Flip display is definitely taller. This has been the aspect ratio for Flips over the years, just a much more narrow form factor, although it actually is considerably wider this year given its newer, larger size of 6.9 inches. Now, looking at the 4.1-inch display on the outside for the Flip 7, you can see obviously, okay, now the outer display game is definitely going to the Fold here. Pretty much two flips on the outside here. And then on this Flip 7, you have pretty much what is the outer display on the Fold. Granted, it is noticeably larger, but then once again, the Fold giving you essentially two flips. So overall, a lot of versatility with these devices, just different kinds of versatility. That's why sometimes, for me personally, there's a toss-up of which one is the better one, which one is more enjoyable to commit to. Now, as far as these outer displays, of course, on the Fold, we have what is really just the main actual phone as far as all of your functionality. All of the same stuff that you would be able to do on that inner display, you can do on this outer display. Now, that's pretty much the case with this new Flip 7. We have some very good software here and a good mesh combination of a lot of these widgets that you can have in addition to just putting apps on your screen out here. So for example, I can just go into my Notes app here. Let's max this out to full screen. So I've been really enjoying this Flip 7 for just jotting down some of my notes. I can make additions to my notes, for example, from the outer display here. Got my keyboard here, works perfectly fine. Just type in my name here. However, then you can't see any of the text that you are typing, which is kind of strange, but if you were really in a pinch, you could do something on the outside here with this keyboard. The keyboard itself is perfectly good, but a lot of times the outer display just serves as a reference display for me personally. And then if I really want to do something, then I can take that time to open up the phone, get out the actual keyboard, and go ahead and do what I need to do. It is nice quickly getting to your notifications though on this outer screen, just right there, nice and large, really smooth 120 hertz refresh rate here, just navigating through the front display. So in this sense, if you're strictly going to go off of screens, I would say the Fold is definitely still the one with the advantage here. It is still just crazy to be holding this here and using this as large of a tablet as it is in this thin of a form factor, and the fact that it folds up comfortably into your pocket. If you are interested in having the most screen space possible and really using this as more than a phone, it's your primary phone, it's your primary tablet. At least that's what I found when committing to this device. It's that higher price, so you're just kind of going all in on this device. This is an all-in device kind of purchase. You want something to use as your phone, as your tablet, as your work device, as your personal entertainment device. It is something that just replaces every other piece of tech you might be using, whereas the Flip 7, obviously, this is just a smartphone replacement while giving you a much more compact form factor, some added versatility from the outer display. And for me personally, sometimes it's nice and less stimulating to just use an outer display like this to quickly reference things so that I'm not just doom scrolling and watching content and things like that. I just get onto my phone out here quickly, get into what I need, and then I can just move on with my day. Whereas this Fold can be a lot more enticing because you have what is already a pretty large display out here. And then with this Fold device, I'm way more likely to find something that I want to check out. And then next thing I know, I'm opening up to the inner display. I am then engaging way more with this phone, probably more than I should, because this is just a very addicting device to me personally, having this much screen space with you in your pocket at all times, and the fact that it's so accessible and it can be used for absolutely everything. I had mentioned this years ago. It still rings true today. These devices are almost too good. They are such smooth performing devices with very good experiences overall as far as the display, the speakers, the battery life, the cameras. Obviously, those things should be expected at the price tag you have to pay for this, but I'm just simply stating my experiences between these two devices. The Fold, I am using way more throughout the day. There's simply so much more you can do with this. Whereas the Flip, while still a very fun and enjoyable folding phone experience, it's just going to be your smartphone replacement. So then obviously the compact form factor is really what the Flip is all about. So it is still a very consistent Flip experience as all the past Flips, as far as just a nice compact feel in the hand despite getting some larger displays. Feels great in the palm of the hand, fits in the pocket great. It's always nice using it with a wireless charger just because I know it's going to be on it 100% of the time. A lot of little things like that are what add up to make the Flip experience so good for me personally. Now, what's been interesting to me is that when I've had the opportunity to use both of these phones over the past week, I've actually had more screen time and used the Flip more than the Fold, even though the Fold is the way more engaging device. But when having both of these around, sitting around and going to grab one, I'm going to grab this Flip most times because this outer display has been that good of an experience for me that I love just checking in on this smaller screen throughout the day. Even though the Fold is crushing this in some areas, like having a lot more vertical space to check things out on your outer screen, and then just being able to pop open to this inner display in a moment's notice. Getting a great experience here, very easy to read people's comments while watching a full-size YouTube video. I also think both of these have great cameras in their own ways. So on the Flip side, really nice to have the primary camera just ready to go at all times. You are always a double press away from accessing your primary camera for selfies, which you can do the same thing on the Fold. For the record, it just is a little bit more of a process jumping into the camera, then hitting the selfie button up here, going ahead, opening up your phone, then you can flip around, and then you have access to that main camera over here. And it's not to say that this is bad on the Fold at all. It's just a little bit extra step to jump to this point, and again, a quite larger experience here versus maybe you just want to snap a very quick selfie in the palm of your hand with this form factor versus this large form factor. But it is very enjoyable to use this fold opened up, very lightweight and thin. So having it open like this to do some recordings or things, it's really not that bad. And then of course the 200 megapixel coming to the Fold 7, huge upgrade. We still have just a 50 megapixel on the Flip, but I would say both still take great pictures from their respective lenses. I am definitely still missing a telephoto lens on this Flip 7. It should have at least 3 times optical zoom, if not 5 times. Whereas we do have that 3 times optical zoom included in the Fold, as it should. And while we're talking about it, I know a lot of people were critical of this hole punch coming back, but honestly, I'm glad it's here because the video quality I noticed from it is very good. Go and watch my unboxing video if you want to see that, but I personally did not like Samsung's under-display cameras before. The quality was extremely poor, so I'm glad that we are back at this solution, and that is the whole point of the Fold experience, to use it in a ton of different ways with a camera here, a camera on the inside, 3 cameras on the back. And that is what I love about smartphones in general. The more you can do with them, the more you can do what you need to do and move on with your life. It's just that you do kind of have to be careful with these folds because they are so good that you can find yourself just jumping into stuff that you wouldn't need to jump into otherwise. Whereas the Flip, it's just there for when you need it. You need to just reference something online or quickly look up some navigation or something, or check your emails. You can use Bixby from the outer display to change settings, so change the brightness to 50%. Now, as far as all the things that people actually care about, the battery life, the speakers, some of those more official review metrics, I will say overall, the speakers on the Fold 7 are definitely better than the Flip 7. It's not that they're bad on the Flip, just noticeably better on the Fold, and kind of surprising with how thin it is, how good the speakers are on it. We have the dual speaker setup here on the top and the bottom on the left. There is also a dual speaker setup in the Flip 7, so one through the upper front there, and then a speaker grill on the bottom. And looking at my first 2 battery cycles on these 2 phones, on the Fold 7, I got 6 hours and 20 minutes of screen time over the course of a day. And this was with a lot of heavy camera usage, 4K 60 filming, a good amount of inter-display usage. Whereas definitely a lighter use case for me on this Flip for its first cycle. I got 8.5 hours of screen on time. Very promising to see that, since people like to hate on these Exynos processors. This is packed with the Exynos 2500 instead of the Snapdragon 8 Elite in the Fold. So there seems to be a lot of concern about that because, oh, it's Exynos. But for me personally, 8.5 hours of screen time in my first real life use case. I know most of it was just watching YouTube videos, but I would say the Fold is definitely capable of hitting 8.5 hours of screen time as well. If it is a more lighter use case, I'm spending more time on YouTube or just doing lighter battery load tasks instead of a lot of video and camera testing and using the Galaxy AI features on this Fold more. So honestly, I would say you don't have to worry about performance and battery life differences between the 2 different processors in these. I don't know why Samsung uses different processors, but overall the experience has been extremely buttery smooth and premium on both of these. And really my only disappointments are on this Flip 7 not having the 45 watt charging. We need to have 45 watt charging on Samsung's most premium devices, in my opinion. When Samsung currently offers a $350 phone, the Galaxy A36, this has 45 watt charging. So it's just kind of conflicting to me personally when Samsung is going on stage saying these are their pinnacles of mobile technology when they don't have features from a device that is a fraction of the price. And as someone who has used all these Samsung devices over the years, I can notice a faster charging speed when you have the 45 watts compared to the 25 watts that both of these have. It's actually kind of even more surprising to me that the Fold still does not have the 45 watt charge. It's just weird to think about this device and the price you pay and all the capability that it has, and then you go to plug it in to top it back up and you're not getting the fastest charging speeds to complement what is overall Samsung's pinnacle of mobile technology. That is their wording. So it's just interesting that you don't have all of the bells and whistles here. And of course that brings us to the no S Pen on the internal display. Obviously it's very disappointing for me personally. I've always liked using the S Pens with the Folds, but I'm still getting by just fine again, with a touchscreen stylus. A lot of people were asking about this, so I'll have a link to it in the description. It's just a $10 stylus, and the nib on the top is definitely not as precise as on the S Pens, but I think that's a good thing considering this is a flexible display. So with all those things considered, answering the original question of this video, which one am I leaning towards right now? Which one should you get if you're considering both of these? My general recommendation for most people is get this Flip 7. It is a greatly improved version of all the past ones, so it doesn't matter which generation you have. I think this is a worthy upgrade with this much larger and actually usable outer screen, and then also having a slightly bigger inner screen. Very usable and enjoyable on its own, and just the fact that it is this large of a screen in this compact of a form factor makes this a very compelling device. So it's just interesting that I am leaning more towards this Flip initially, even though the Fold is the one that got a lot of the major upgrades. I would say with the Fold, you should know what you're getting yourself into. If you need something that is going to be taking care of a lot of your mobile tasks a lot more quicker and accessibly compared to going and getting a tablet, going to your laptop, this is in your pocket all the time, access it anywhere. It is really like a computer experience, having all your tabs at the top. You have very large display here. You can read a ton of stuff at once. You're not on a tiny little screen trying to look at a bunch of stuff. It is also just a much, much higher price on this Fold, whereas the Flip, this is really the most I would pay for a flip phone personally. I know there's a new Motorola Razr Ultra, which is very similar to this, but does have some higher specifications. But that costs about $1,300 to $1,500. And when this Flip used to cost around that, the Flips used to cost $1,380 for retail price. I was very hesitant on those Flips at that price point, whereas closer to $1,000 feels a little bit more reasonable, even though it's still a very high price tag. It is really kind of consistent pricing with the S25 Ultra, and you are making some big camera sacrifices from that S25 Ultra. The reason I mentioned that phone is because a lot of people consider going from an Ultra to this Flip phone I found over the years in my comments. So it is totally understandable to want to go down to a Flip from a larger conventional smartphone, whereas this is definitely a bigger commitment of a device. Even though it has slimmed down considerably, it is still pretty big, surface area wise. But I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on the Fold and Flip 7 initially here in the comments below. Be sure to check out my early reviews on the Fold and Flip, and I have a case video on the Folds and about to make a case video for the Flips, so stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.